In Algebra 1, Section 2.7, we're dealing with combining like terms. Alright, so what we're doing is we're trying to figure out what are like terms, first of all. Well, like terms are the same variable raised to the same power. So, for example, if I have x and x squared, well, they both have x in it, but one is x and one is x squared. So the same variable, okay, raised to the same power. So only x squareds can be combined with x squareds, and x's can be combined with x's, and numbers without any variables can be combined. And when I say combine, I mean the number in front of the variable, which is the coefficient. Alright? So, for example, we have here an x squared and an x squared. Because those can combine, I'm going to keep these. Okay? So I know that I'm going to have an x squared. And I'm going to then, this is the coefficient. So I'm going to have 5 plus 3. And I'm going to bring this over. So minus 7. Okay? 5 plus 3. Because it's the same, I just combine. 5 plus 3 is 8x squared minus 7. So again, I keep the x squared exactly where it's supposed to be. It's the same. Okay, the only thing I combine is the numbers in front. A positive 5 and a positive 3 gives me a positive 8. So positive 8x squared minus 7 is my answer. Now, this is x squared and this has no number. That's the reason why they cannot be combined. When combining like terms, it only has to be the variable raised to the same power. Okay, let's try this one. Now this one requires a little bit of the distributive property that you learned last section. So with this distributive property, I'm going to go ahead and bring down this 1 right here. Then I'm going to take the whole number, including the negative, and I'm going to distribute it. So negative 4 to positive 1 gives, because this is a negative and a positive, it's going to give me a negative 4. Negative 4 times 1. Negative 4 times negative 2x, remember I take it all, so negative 4 times negative 2, which gives me 2 negatives, is a positive, okay, x. Sorry, positive 8x. Alright, when I'm combining like terms, I'm adding or subtracting, but in this case, I'm multiplying. So when I multiply, okay, I can multiply variables as well. So then I can start combining like terms. Well, because 1 has no variable, it can be combined with negative 4, which has no variable as well. So remember, we start at 1, and it wants me to move back 4, so I end up with a negative 3. Okay? And then 8x has no like terms, so I'm going to go ahead and just connect that at the end. And this is as simplified as this can get. So I'm not solving anything because there's no equal sign. What this is called is simplified. That means I'm combining as much terms as I can, and then that's as far as I can go. Right? Our last problem is very similar, but you see how I put a negative here, a line underneath? This tells me that I used it, and it becomes very helpful for longer problems like this to make sure that I've covered everything. So I'm going to start with last section, which is my distributive property. 5 times x gives me 5x, and I need to make sure 5 times positive 1 is positive 5. Okay? Now I need to take this whole thing. Positive 2 times 4 gives me a positive 8. And positive 2 times negative x, okay? Now, positive 2 times negative x gives me, positive 2 times negative x gives me a negative 2x, right? So, with this, after I do the distributive property, now I can combine like terms. I know that this has an x, and this has an x, so I can bring down the x. 5x minus 2x gives me 3x, and since these have no variables, I can combine these, giving me 5 plus 8, which is positive 13. Alright? So go ahead and try page 110, number 14, 110, number 14, and I'll see you in class.